Hey, I'm Jason Harrell.
And I'm Justin Boyd.
And let's freaking do this.
Welcome to episode number 30 of Let's Friggin' Do This. My name is Justin Boyd, and once again, I'm thrilled to be joined by my good friend and musician, Jason Harrell. Jason, how's it going today?
It's going good. It's going pretty good.
You know, after your weekend, I wasn't sure we'd even get you back on the podcast because you were like a rock star in Dallas. Let's talk about this briefly before we get to our guest. Is this the coolest photo of you ever? I mean, it's got to be in the top 10, right?
It's absolutely the coolest photo ever. I don't even know who that guy is. Who is that guy?
I don't know. Gus Canales, I believe is his name. He did a great job with that photo. Tell everybody real quickly, like, how was the show with the Jaret Ray Reddick band in Dallas?
It was great. There was the whole. Goodness gracious! It's a van full of nuns, and they put on the Pop Punk's Not Dead Fest every year, and so they they have original music, but they also do a lot of the whole, like, kind of I guess at this point it's retro. They're bringing back that whole pop punk. They do a lot of pop punk covers, and so they had a whole VIP thing where they had Jaret and Rob go out there and do some Bowling for Soup stuff, and then anyway, you know, it was a blast, and it was at the Granada Theater, which I'd never been to. We played several theaters this year, and it's been fun.
Yeah, it's been, just hearing about it, it's been awesome. And again, what a great photo of you. And yeah, so lucky to have you back. You're super talented. Speaking of super talented, why don't you introduce our guest this week?
Hey, we have Aaron LaCombe here. How's it going, Aaron? Really
good. How are y'all?
Doing good. This is the funny part where we pretend like we haven't been talking for 15 minutes. So
right.
But yeah, so I was telling you earlier, Aaron, I didn't really finish the story, but I listen to a lot of music, and my Spotify algorithm is pretty much based on explicit, you know, just the stuff that I like, and so somehow the Spotify wizards knew that I would like your songs. And so the song that I think really got me was oh my gosh, where'd my list go? I have my list of songs up here. We're very professional, Aaron. A Little Something. Oh. That's the one I asked you about. That's the one I asked you about at the dealer. I told you after you got off stage I was hoping you were going to play that song, but that's on your most recent album.
Yeah.
And that's the song. That's the song that caught me, because it's the perspective of, just the perspective that, you know, like the smoker on the street, just trying to get a little peace, and it's just like, because there's so much focus on all the things that you know can be wrong and bad for you. I don't know. It's just you have a lot of perspective that has. I think I would describe it as wisdom in your songwriting. But anyway, it sucked me in, and I love it.
Well, that's cool. I appreciate that. That song is real special to me for a couple of reasons. The main one is that there's that line, and the second verse is kind of about a friend of mine who got throat cancer. He had been smoking for 40 or 50 years, so it wasn't really a surprise. But he, you know, I had a weird relationship with a lot of things. My mom was an ER nurse when I was young, and she convinced me that if I was in the same room with a marijuana cigarette, that I would immediately turn to the devil and then also become hooked and, you know, become permanently incontinent and, you know, all these other side effects. And she was good at what she did. It convinced me. So the first time I basically looked down on anybody who used cannabis until the age of like 42 or something like that. And then I tried it and I went, well, you know, it's not that bad at all. You know? And anyways, this friend of mine who got cancer of course, the chemo destroyed his appetite, but with a little bit of cannabis oil, he was able to eat. And, he hung around a lot longer than he would have otherwise. And that part, for the first, like maybe 10, 12 times I tried to sing that song, it genuinely choked me up. And that never happens to me. I'm usually able to, by the time I'm writing a song about something, I've got enough distance. So that is particularly special to me.
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to get into some of the ways that you approach songwriting and the subject matters and how you come to them, because they all feel like they're personal. I don't know if they're all are, or
they all start with a nugget of something personal. Mm-hmm. As you get toward my newer catalog, there'll be less and less of the actual personal in some songs, because at some point you just have to, you can't always write about stuff you're going through, especially when things are going okay. When you're younger and you're waking up hungover at some strange person's face down on their front lawn and all that, you have great stuff to write about. And then as you get older and get a little more organized and wiser, your material can sort of dry up on you.
Yeah. So the lesson to the kids is just keep getting hungover and you'll have plenty of stories.
Yeah, just go hard. Just go hard all the way. Yeah.
You'll be a great songwriter someday.
Yeah. Yeah. Right up until you're 27, at which point you'll be dead.
Right. Yeah.
Well, Aaron, the song I want to ask you about first off is your latest single, which I want to know if this is personal, because for me and Jason, this is personal for us because we grew up in a small town about 40 miles east of Abilene, in Cisco, Texas. And one thing about small towns where we're from is they all have these staples, right? They all have a Dairy Queen. They all have about 15 churches. They all have a historic downtown with 6 antique stores, and 2 of them are maybe open, but they've also all got an Allsups. Even Cisco, which has literally 2 stoplights, we have 2 Allsups. That's how popular they are. And everyone knows if you go to Allsups, you got to get the burrito. Mm-hmm. And then lo and behold, you wrote the Allsups burrito song, the ode to the Allsups burrito. Tell us about the origin of that song, and was it a personal thing that motivated you to write the song?
For sure it was. I mean, just like being a Lions fan, there would be no reason to, if it wasn't in your blood, to write a song about the Allsups burrito. It's not something you can appreciate if you, as a sober adult, you wouldn't try one for the first time and be like, oh, this is, But yeah, the story goes, I had booked myself a show in Nashville on a Thursday and in Houston on Sunday, which is a totally doable thing. But then somebody called me and said, hey, do you want to open for James McMurtry on Saturday in Roswell, New Mexico? And I said yes before I even looked at a map or anything. And this is in the days when my van was still acting up to the point, because of a blown head gasket, I basically had to pull over every hour and a half for a little while. So I said yes. I pulled off the gig in Nashville, started hauling butt towards Roswell, played my show, had a great show, stayed for most of James's set, but I had to cut out a couple songs early and make tracks toward Houston for the next day. Fell asleep just across the Texas border in an Allsups parking lot. And when I woke up in the morning, the smell of those burritos was coming into the van. And it's just reminded me of all the times, back when I was in my 20s living in New Mexico, and 20s and 30s really. And, we'd be at the bar until, it was a smaller town, the Taco Bell closed at 10 there, So really your only option was that burrito. And it had attached itself to so many fun nights back then. So I started writing this song on the way to Houston in the car, no guitar, just kind of singing it, humming along. And actually, I didn't grow up in New Mexico or West Texas. I was trying to think, who do I know that grew up there that could maybe co-write this song with me and give it a little bit of cred. So I text my buddy John Bauman, and I'm sending him like these little vocal snippets of me singing as I'm going down the road. And I think he's a sweet guy, but I think he was just like, no, bro, you're on your own for this. And so I finished writing the song, and I played it that night in Houston. And even though we were, hundreds of miles from the nearest Allsups, there were people there that, oh yeah, we know. And
yeah. I live in Houston, and there are no Allsups here in Houston, nowhere around, but there are plenty from where I'm from. So
yep. So I just kind of hung on to it. And if I was in the green room opening for a band and there were a bunch of like road musicians back there, I'd play it for them, and they'd all love it, of course, because, they've had them. And eventually I just kind of decided to do a little YouTube video of it.
Yeah, the video is great. And it's, it's basically a love song to the deep fried burrito, which, it's a song I never knew we needed, but now it's awesome. I mean, I can't wait. I love listening to it. The video is also great. So
yeah,
I appreciate that. I did not plan to make it a thing. It is not the song I want to represent my songwriting career. But when I put that little YouTube video out, it just kind of went nuts, to the point where 2 days after I had put the video out, I got a call from Allsups, and I was like, oh, this is probably not good, because, it's not an entirely complimentary song. But yeah, they were like, hey, we heard your song. We like it. Do you want to play some grand openings at the stores and blah, blah, blah. They were super nice.
Oh, wow. That's got to be cool.
Did you play them?
It hasn't worked out yet. The couple of dates they've hit me with didn't happen, but they did pay me once to go to Larry Joe Taylor Fest up in Stephenville, Texas.
Yeah.
I just walk around in an Allsup shirt eating burritos. And it was really interesting. I wasn't the only one. There were other people there for the same reason. And we just literally got paid to walk around with burritos. And, you can do about 3 before you really start feeling like, this is actual work now,
Yeah, there's really nothing. Let me think about how I want to say this, because I don't want to offend the Allsups constituency. I mean, because they might sponsor us.
Tread lightly. That's all I'm going to say.
I can tell you, having spoken to them, that they are fully aware of what their product is and is not.
No, I feel like they are, because I've seen some of this, the marketing and the stuff that they do on social media. But it's entirely nostalgia. It's entirely driven by the same memories that you sing about in the song.
Yeah. And the way we always thought it was funny. I lived in Ruidoso, New Mexico for the longest time. There's an Allsups right there on the corner, and we would joke. We'd sit there and watch people go in and just sit there and joke about how now they smelled like a burrito. Like the rest of the night, they were going to smell like that burrito. Didn't matter no matter how much perfume you put on or whatever.
Yeah, and it's true. The traveling musicians definitely appreciate the song. We listened to it on the van on the way to Colorado, and actually it was on the way to Lubbock first, and then we went to Colorado. But it was a hit.
Right on.
I liked it. I just want to know, is there going to be a follow-up, the ode to the Allsups Chimichanga?
You're not even the first person to ask me that this week.
Oh my God.
Where was I at? Oh, I was at the TV station in Albuquerque last Wednesday, and because I was on my way up to Oregon for that music festival, and I stopped in and did a little bit there, and both of the reporters that were there that were like, why wasn't the song about the chimmy? I'm like, because chimmy doesn't fit in it doesn't rhyme with anything,
right.
But yeah, obviously you order the chimmy.
That's right. I always do.
That's actually the controversial take, because we
there
have
you go.
evidence of you with your dog with the chimichanga.
Yeah.
I've actually never had the chimichanga. I had the burrito tons of times. I've actually never tried the chimichanga. So you're saying I should give it a shot.
The chimmy is the superior product, in my opinion. But I think that wrapper, I don't think Allsups is the kind of company that's so ballin' that they've got a separate wrapper for each. I think if you were to turn that wrapper around, it would say burrito on it. But I can't, I'm not sure of that.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
If you're a high roller like me, you'll get one of each. That's
right.
what you do.
I had one on the way up to that show. And I got a chimney, and I had the green chili and cheese burrito,
Ooh.
which is, I hadn't had that one in many years, and it was surprisingly good.
Yeah.
Like it's real green chili in there.
Yeah, they're always good when you eat them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's the after effects you got to worry about.
Right.
And your song got referenced in a Texas Monthly article, so that's got to be pretty cool to kind of get some recognition. I mean, I read the article, and it's also very much tongue in cheek talking about the burrito, and
Right.
I mean, it is like it's almost 50 years old, and it's for
Yeah.
people like us that have been through these small towns and stuff. It's like it really is like a staple item that you kind of have to try or experience.
For sure. And it's so funny, man. If you ask me, put all of your songs that you've ever written in the order in which you'd like them to be mentioned in Texas Monthly. The Allsup burrito would just be way, way down that list.
So,
But it is what it is.
what would be number one then that you would want it to be mentioned?
I think my main skill is that I can write a pretty damn devastating sad song.
Mm-hmm.
There's one on the new record called Fluorescent Lights I'm real proud of.
Yep.
There's one going 5 albums back called Comfort and Whiskey that has this line that still don't know how I came up with it. I know where I was and when I was when I wrote it, and it still just doesn't seem like it came from me. Something about really, really bumming people out just makes me happy. So it would probably be one of those.
Yeah, that was one of in our brief conversation in Mahia, we talked about that the sad songs were, and I told you that my friend put on Matt Moran put on the whole Sad by Southwest festival in Fort Worth, which was
that's brilliant.
It was funny that it was called that because we're all sad boys, but we had so much fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people say to me, you don't seem sad. And the reason is that I just work all that stuff out in songs, I'm not a particularly silly person, but I can go around singing Allsup's Burrito and a couple of these other, my dog thinks are we allowed to swear?
Yeah, go ahead.
My dog thinks you're an asshole is one of my
Yeah.
the hooks to one of my songs. And, I get my silliness and my sadness out in the song so I can just be kind of level the rest of the time.
Yeah, I mean my favorite are the sad ones. Although I guess there's Uncle Carl, which is not sad. It's I don't know. I mean, it's not sad. It's kind of a little funny about how the story goes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That one is a rare. I was walking a tight line when I wrote that thing because I was primarily worried that I was going to be offending the LGBTQ community by making fun of. It doesn't make fun of a situation, but there's certainly, you could look at it that way if you didn't know where it was coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that.
And, I wanted to I wanted to make the song go as long as I could without you figuring out where I was going to come from on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it isn't until that line in the second verse where everybody gets up from the table and everybody says, "We love y'all both," and Dad will come around. I think that's the first line where you really figure out that, okay, this is gonna be okay. This guy's not gonna cancel himself, for singing this song.
Well, and then Dad, at the end of it, Dad's out in the driveway talking to him for an hour. So,
right, and that was another thing is the story, the whole thing wraps up in a few minutes. And that's not how it works in real life.
Sure.
Often it's a 10-year struggle or more. And that was the other thing I thought I would maybe catch a little heat over. But everybody's been so nice about that song. I still get messages. If it's not Christmas, I get a message every 2 weeks. If it's Christmas, I get a message every 2 hours about it.
Yeah.
And 1 out of 1,000 is you're going to hell and God hates you. But, most of them are super nice and.
And it's a great video, and the actors in the video, I mean, it's really well done. And like the thing about your music, all your songs, I've noticed because I've been listening to them the past week or so, is I think you're a very talented singer songwriter. I think you're just like like off the charts kind of storyteller. Like all your songs tell stories that like I feel like they're so like real. Like they're like
Mm-hmm.
you hear. I mean, I guess everyone who plays a song in essence or sings a song is trying to tell some kind of a story. But I think yours do. There's such a reality to them that it really hits. And like I don't know, they just they all sound really great. And this song is a perfect example of that.
I appreciate that. In large part, they are. I mean, 90% of it's real, and that's the reason I'm able to remember the lyrics is because, if you ever see me live, I don't open my eyes a whole lot. And that's just because the story of what's happening is sort of playing on the back of my eyelids, and I can really only remember the words to songs that have a through line, like a story.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the song doesn't really tell a story, then how the hell do I know what the next sentence is in the song?
Right. Yeah.
So I have a pretty narrow. I do a certain thing, and I've got a lot of practice at it. If I were to have to write a bunch of songs for the radio that I thought were going to do well, I would be struggling.
Yeah. I think the one that struck me over the past week that I was listening to was That's How It Happened to Me. Because you've got the line that says, and you wake up the next morning and you're 43.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because the whole, that whole first verse is like, your first taste of alcohol and it tastes like shit. So
Yep.
you're never going to have another sip. Yeah. And
Yeah. There's that line is very real to me to the extent that I was 43 when I wrote it. It's not just what rhymed. It's that, the time elapsed from the time I had my first drink till then seemed like the snap of a finger, And man, you don't ever want to if I were ever confronted with a situation like where every beer I ever had or every drink I ever had was on video and it was shown to me, of course it would be shocking, but that is how it happens. You get started on something like that. And, some people, I'm thankful that I've been able to taper it off to a manageable situation in my older age. But, something like that picks up speed real fast on you.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that, like I've personally had kind of like a love-hate relationship with alcohol, and I've had my own, like, whatever you want to call them, like moments or months or however many, whatever the time period of time when I'm like, is this a problem?
Right. Totally.
And I know a lot of people who have also gone through that. Some of them, have given it up entirely because they have to. They just can't.
Yep.
They can't function.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's others who probably fall more on the spectrum like I do of like I probably drink too much. I've started thinking about it as an analogy in a way, and maybe it's terrible, and maybe somebody will get mad about it for me saying it this way, but like I think I drink too much the way some people just habitually overeat.
Yeah, sure.
Like it's not to the point where it's causing me problems, It's just like I probably lean on it a bit too much from time to time,
I struggle with both of those things equally. And the thing I've learned about myself is that it's way easier for me to have nothing than it is for me to have one of something.
Yeah.
Like if you put me in front of a buffet that has like cheese and crackers and all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I could probably go over there and keep myself from reaching for it. But if I make myself one really delicious cheese and cracker, I'm going to be sitting by that buffet all night,
Yeah.
And it's the same way with alcohol. Like, nothing makes another beer sound good like the one you just had.
Right.
So,
Well, and that whole song, it's we were talking earlier about how your songs seem to come from a perspective of experience and wisdom, and I mean the song itself is kind of like, talking to someone who hasn't got that experience or wisdom, kind of like the perspective
mm-hmm.
of somebody who's gone through it, and what's the line? It's like, you don't always have to do it the hard way, but that's how it happened to me. I'm probably misquoting you, but it's something along those lines.
No, that's exactly right.
Okay, but yeah, somebody said recently, like, there's some songwriters you feel like they're just writing like you're exactly the target audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that for these songs that you've written.
That means a whole lot to me. To me, that's the whole thing. Like, I know I'm not taking the shotgun approach. I'm not writing songs that are going to hit everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking the rifle approach, where I'm going to hit one person maybe in the crowd, but I'm going to get them.
Yeah.
They're going to be going through the same thing that and everybody else is partying over here, but this one dude is over here crying because I'm singing about divorce or whatever. Yeah. And that means a whole lot more to me than it does to have everybody dancing to my drinking song.
Yeah.
And Jason, Aaron's got another song. I wanted to ask him about this because I think it's targeted right at you. It's called "I'm Somebody Here," and from my perspective, it sounds like it's someone talking about the struggle of like playing and getting attention in Austin, Texas, and then compared that to the fun of playing on the road in front of people. Aaron, did I get that right, or is that kind of the gist of the song?
That's exactly right. Like, I moved to Austin just like. There's these Facebook groups that are meant for musicians to connect on, when they come to Austin or whatever. And I keep seeing these posts that look just like the first post I made when I got here. They're just like, "Hey guys, singer, songwriter, looking to put together a band. I need a bass player, a drummer, blah, blah, blah." And I just feel so bad for them because they're about to learn some serious shit, which is if you do find a drummer and a bass player, they're going to be in 40 other bands, and you're going to have to schedule your practice between 3:45 and 4:30 in the morning on Tuesday, and then you're going to send 2,000 emails to 2,000 different venues, and you're going to hear back from one, and you're going to find out that they want to pay you $30, and parking is $12 per car that you take down there. And of course, you'll get tips, and you'll get 2 tickets for 2 PBRs per band member and all that stuff. And man, it's just a hard thing to sort of figure out. And I went at it. I kind of started a Southern rock band when I moved to Austin, and man, we went at it pretty hard. We did all the emails, we got the website, we recorded an album, we did all this stuff, and it just like. We got to where we were playing 5 nights a week, but it was the same places and the same people were coming, and they were just there because it was cheap beer that night or whatever. So years later, I'd kind of been doing my solo thing for a few years and started to build up some fans. And I played this show in Colorado. It was a house concert, and there was maybe 50 people there, but they were all just listening to everything I said, laughing at the little jokes in the songs, and sniffling maybe a few times when it gets a little sad. And I just got done playing that gig, and I thought, man, it's just so much better everywhere else for what I do anyways. I have friends who are real successful playing, you look at like Bob Schneider, what he does. Austin's the perfect place for him, man. He's one of those rare people that does, like, when you look for it, there's depth to his songs, but he also just knows how to lay it out there for everybody, Mine's a particular thing that just doesn't work particularly well at a lot of those places.
Jason, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I want to know what was the name of your band that you started when you came here?
Oh man, it was called Bad Marmot.
Bad Marmot. Okay. What year was that?
Geez, I'm gonna guess it was about 10 years ago. It started. Okay. So 2013.
I found the album. It's on Bandcamp. It's from 2015. Was the album? Does that sound about right?
Yeah. We probably formed in 2013 and cut that album in 2015.
Album's titled "Sad, Beautiful, True."
Yep. And I actually love most of the songs that are on that record, but the recording is awful. It is absolutely unlistenable. But I admire your diligence, because I've gone to pretty great lengths to make it real hard to find.
Yeah, I had it. So that experience of coming to Austin and starting a band and realizing how terrible the idea was after a couple of years is the reason I pretty much put playing music as a profession completely, just tossed it. Just a couple years into it when I was in my 20s, I didn't start a band until I was 24, and by I think Christmas, sometime in December of 2007 was the last show we played, and then that was it.
Yeah.
And I got a real job and only played music off and on for friends for almost 10 years after that.
Wow.
But yeah, it's a hard lesson to learn. And I look back also, and I recognize like what you have learned about, that the audience is there. It's just not necessarily in Austin.
Right.
That was something I didn't know.
And that's the line in that song that rings true, and that is, it just makes more sense to go where you're known, like where people can feel what you're doing and know you. And Austin just wasn't the right place for me, at least not at that time. Maybe 30, 40 years earlier, when Guy Clark, and not that I'm comparing myself to them, but but those singer-songwriter guys who could sit on a stool and tell a story, and that was the thing. There's still enclaves. You can still do that on a weeknight at the Saxon Pub,
Yeah.
And there's a few other. There used to be this little basement listening room thing. I saw Matt the electrician play there a bunch of years back. I think it's kind of closed down now, but there's a few spots where you can still do that. Man, if you walk down 6th Street, you're going to hear 5 different versions of Pride and Joy and a bunch of Tom Petty, and you are not going to hear anybody's original music.
Yeah. Tell me, this is related to what we were talking about. Tell me if I'm wrong here. It seems like on the progression of your solo stuff that is out there, it does seem like you kind of earlier on had more of a grit to your voice, kind of like some bluesy sounding type vocals than what you have certainly on the most recent record.
Totally. That is 100% the result of me just not trying to be something I'm not anymore. Like, there's a record even before, a very well-produced record before the Bad Marmot record that I did as a solo thing when I was in New Mexico with some world-class musicians. Mm-hmm. And if you listen to it, you'll just hear it's all that kind of growl, that, sort of grunge stuff. And it's just because I thought that's what I was, I just hadn't found my own voice yet. And, I'm at the point now where my give a shit is just completely busted about what anybody thinks about my music. And so I'm writing 100% just what I want to write, and I'm singing it the way I want to sing it. And, you've been to a wildly underattended show of mine, and but last year I decided I was going to play as many gigs as I could possibly play, and I topped out at 118 last year.
Ooh, that's a lot.
Which is a pretty grueling schedule all over the United States. Didn't care how much they paid me. All I wanted was basically fan building and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And another thing I decided that year is I'm just not playing covers anymore. I'm going to do my own stuff. I don't care if it sucks. I don't care if people hate it. I'm just going to do my own thing. And that 118 gigs of just sometimes absolutely fabulous, but a lot of times just sitting in the corner of a bar being completely ignored. It just takes all of the pretense out of you, and you take a beating sometimes, but you learn to just do what you want to do, and most of the time you can get like this one couple over in the corner of the bar to like you and start really listening. Like they'll catch some little joke or some little deeper thing in one of your songs, and they'll be, oh, okay, this guy's pretty serious. And then the other 40 people are just completely ignoring you.
Mm-hmm.
But that just beat all of the give a shit out of me. I do not care anymore. I'm way more selective about the gigs I take this year because that was part of the plan. This year I play where all the seats are facing the stage. That's my rule. No more background music stuff.
Yeah.
But after a year of learning to like just stand there and fight and stand my ground and do my thing, it's paid off in that now I just don't feel like I have to pretend to be anybody.
So would you recommend that approach for someone else?
Absolutely. If you have no other choice but to be a singer-songwriter musician, then I think that's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
But if you have a crack at like if you can do another job and be happy in your life and make money, do that because it's way easier. I just can't. I've tried all kinds of stuff and I can't make myself do it for any period of time. I went through a stage where I owned 3 restaurants at one point. I thought that was going to be my thing. And I just, on a long enough timeline, I will bail on anything but music.
Yeah. I know plenty of people who have jobs. In fact, honestly, if you really get down to it, even though probably in the corporate world, people will lie to each other about it.
Sure.
Nobody enjoys their regular job. Nobody
Right.
enjoys it. Like,
Yep.
finding something that you, and this is also the dilemma when it comes to playing music, I think. And I had this conversation recently. It's like, the venues, the bars that you're trying to get booked at, they're fully aware that this is a business.
Yeah.
But they hold the power because so many of us on the other side of that relationship are just so desperate to be able to do it because they love it so much.
Sure.
That they'll do it for almost nothing or nothing in some cases.
And there are some awful people taking advantage of that. But
yeah,
there are also, if you get turned down for a gig, in my my band, I've been in bands that were kind of terrible, and I look back now and I look at like what I would send to a venue to get them to hire us. I'm like, of course I wouldn't do that. But having owned some venues, I can tell you that there's just a lot that goes into that. Like,
sure.
if a band plays too loud and customers can't, if it's the kind of bar where people want to talk and a band plays too loud, you just can't do that because they'll go somewhere else and buy their drinks. They have to make money.
Yeah.
And I see this meme on Facebook a lot that's like, it's that picture of Walter White and his wife looking at that giant pile of cash in their storage area. And it says something about like restaurant owners, who pay the band $50 looking at their cash at the end of the night. I can tell you it is not that way. Like the stuff you have to pay for at a restaurant, insurance, lights, gas, you have to pay an 18% tax to the government for the privilege of paying your employees. Like on top of everything you pay your employees, you have to pay 18% on top of that. So restaurants aren't stacking up cash either.
No, I know that from experience.
So it has to be a mutual thing. So, I mean, if you're a band playing in a restaurant, you have no idea how much courtesy and respect and staying at least sober enough to not embarrass the owner and all that stuff means. I mean, it's a two-way street.
Yeah. I had this conversation recently too about the especially like I haven't been to 6th Street much in a long time, but when I did go down there a lot, the bars would change names every few months because whoever it was that came in and bought it, or at least what I assumed was happening, and who knows if I'm right or not, but what I assumed what happened a lot of times is the folks who bought it just kind of assumed like, hey, I've got this money. Wouldn't it be cool if I owned this bar?
Yep.
And so they get into it and then they're like, this is hard. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yep. and the people who really like are suited for it and love doing it, it becomes a lot like being a musician in that you'll just dump more and more money into it because
Yep.
it just feels like what you're meant to do. And you can, man, I can't even tell you how much money I lost being in the restaurant business in the end, because you just, you're convinced if you can just make it to this next thing, it's going to catch on. And it's the same way it is with music, except the overhead for being a musician is quite a bit lower.
Yeah. It's still there, but
Oh, it certainly is, man. You do have to make a living, and God forbid you have a Ford van you have to keep on the road or something like that.
Yeah, and it's funny because also from on this side of it, from being a musician, booking shows, I've played places, and I can't bring a crowd. So if I play a place and they don't have a crowd, I like the place and they're very nice to me and they really seem supportive, I also just don't want to be another bill they have to pay.
Right.
I don't want to do that. So so I've actually canceled gigs because of that. Because I didn't.
Well, I would say that's an admirable thing. I think that's cool. I would say if you're not drawing a crowd, I would say at least try to get the crowd to drink. Get their built-in crowd to drink more than they would have otherwise.
Right.
That is a benefit to the place. But yeah, I've definitely had shows where at the end of the night I was just like, dude, you don't have to pay me. This sucked for you as much as it sucked for me. You obviously can't go around doing that all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Aaron, you just mentioned your van. You just got back from going to Oregon. So what's it like being on the road? Do you enjoy that part of being a traveling musician? And I assume you probably do, because you have a song called "Home Is Where You Park It." I believe it's something like that.
Yep.
Is that a big part? Like, do you enjoy being on the road?
I absolutely do. That's my favorite part. That I specifically bought and built that van out so that it could be 100% livable while I'm on the road. And I prefer it to hotel rooms at this point. I'm very comfortable in it. And yeah, man, there's, you play a gig, you plug your van into the, right next to the door where you load out, you put your stuff in there at the end of the night. You can sit around afterwards and have a couple of beers with the people who just watched you. You don't have to worry about driving home the next day. You get up the next morning and, you can have breakfast at, you just ask where the best local place is. You have a great breakfast, maybe watch the sunrise or something. That's where it's at for me, man. I do not look for, if it ever gets to the point where I'm like in a tour bus with a bunch of other guys and, I don't know how long I'll last doing that.
Smelling each other's farts.
Yep. Yeah. And I keep in mind, I have a Great Dane in my
So you
van.
smell plenty of farts.
I've smelled my share of farts, but knowing it's not from another human is comforting for some reason.
Your dog farts comfort you. That might be another song.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a song in there. It's been a couple albums since I've written a dog song, so it's probably about time.
Well, and there's no way to transition to Tom Petty, but you've mentioned Tom Petty earlier, and I've noticed there's several references to Tom Petty in your music. How big of an influence was Tom Petty on you?
First of all, I can only think of one Tom Petty reference in my song, but that doesn't mean there's not more than that. But I just really loved. I like these guys who don't necessarily have the best voice in the world, but are still able to connect, because it's another obstacle. Bob Dylan's a great example. Because I feel the same way. I don't think my voice is I think it's my weakest point, to be honest. I think storytelling is my strong point. And I'm allowed to skate by because I'm pretty good at that. But I always respected Tom Petty because it seemed like he just hit all the elements, man. He could break your heart, but he could get you rocking. And just did it with such class. And there was never any of this like controversy about, you know, the one dust up he had was in the 90s when they wanted to start like jacking up the price of CDs to like $18 or something. He was like, hell no, man, people aren't going to buy that. And he's like, he told the record company, you're not putting my record out unless it's $12 or $13. I don't care if you put it on a gold plated thing, you're not charging more than $12. And he ended up winning that battle. So I just always admired him for his songwriting and just, you know, this work ethic and getting it done, man.
Very cool. You know, earlier we were talking about the Allsup song, the Burrito song. Well, you have another kind of viral song. Your song, the laundry song. I saw you posted on Twitter a while back about how there are 450 people in Italy who were line dancing to your song. So what is that like? I mean, that's you don't. I mean, you didn't go into this thinking I'm going to write a song that tons of people over another country are going to be dancing to. Like that's got to be crazy.
Not at all. That song was another weird little I thought a throwaway. Like when I wrote it because it legit happened. I was on the road with my dog for like 2 weeks. I got home, I washed the sheets and blankets in the van, and when I got done, I just hung them out on the line. I don't know why to this day. The dryer's running right now, and it's perfectly nice outside. But I did. And the next time I slept on them, all these smells just took me right back to my childhood and reminded me all this stuff. And I just thought, this is just another stupid song you're going to sing for your mom and blah, blah, blah. But then, I don't know, maybe it was fate. Like a couple hours later, I was just listening to Spotify and Homegrown Tomatoes by Guy Clark.
Yep, that's it.
Yep. Came on and I was like, you know, first of all, his song's way better, but it's the same song. It's one tiny little slice of something you enjoy in your life that somebody just made a 3-minute thing about, you know?
Right.
And lots of people can relate to it. And I thought, you know, if Homegrown Tomatoes can be on the radio, maybe the laundry song can one day too. And so I put it on the record. It was fun. The guy, Scotty Alexander, played the guitar on it, that dude is just inhuman. I still giggle every time I hear that guitar solo. I'm like, how is that even possible? But yeah, a lady asked me if she could use it she teaches English to Italian people using song lyrics, and she'd heard it on the radio over there. Don't know how that happened either. And I said, sure. I sent her the lyrics, and a couple weeks later, she sends me that video. I'm like, wait, how the hell did this happen? And she's like, well, a friend of mine's a choreographer, and he puts on this festival every year, and yada, yada, yada. I'm like, and this is all happening at like 3 a.m. because, you know, I don't know what time it is in Italy at that time, but I just I couldn't really wrap my mind around it at that time. And it took me like a full day to be like, man, that's cool. Like that could never have happened easily, but it did.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about the sort of similarity to the Homegrown Tomato song until you said that, but that makes sense. And it's another one of those songs that you really tap into, like kind of. It's not just nostalgia, I guess, but it's you know, just retrospection, and you know, there's nostalgia as well, I guess, as far as just but it's not like nostalgia like cultural things. It's like looking back at your own past. And
yeah, I mean, I think there are these little details about life, particularly when we're, you know, as we discussed, we're give or take the same age, the three of us, and so there are going to be little things that we all experienced, you know, that we have in common. And I think if we just paid a little more attention to those things, a little less attention to, you know, what beers make you gay or whatever it is they're talking about these days, you know, I think we'd just be having a way better time.
Yeah.
You know?
You've got, let's see, the song All Wrong. It's got references to riding a bicycle and and just all those things that, like you said, like we all have those experiences, and you're basically allowed to roam free as a kid.
Yeah.
Back
My
then.
mom hates that song because she's worried that the Child Protective Services are going to come after her for some of that stuff.
Well,
But
they'd come after all of our moms then, because
yeah,
that's
for
exactly
sure.
how it always was.
Yeah.
I mean, we now, Justin and I grew up in a really small town. Where did you grow up?
Just outside of Detroit.
Outside of Detroit. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Justin and I grew up in Cisco, as a very small town, but we pretty much ran all over. So I was allowed to go anywhere pretty much on. Cisco's kind of broken down into 4 different. Like, there's one main stop sign, right? So there's one main. Here, do it here. There's one main stop sign, stoplight, and so you have the different four different sections, sort of. And so we were pretty much allowed to roam free on our side of the main road.
Nice.
Until a certain age, and then we could cross the road, I guess. I don't know exactly what age that was, but at some point my mom gave in. But
I remember distinctly, and keep in mind, this is as it says in the song, a suburb of a city. So there was Detroit, Inkster, and then Garden City, where I grew up. So it got less scary at the time as you went out, but still not distant from Detroit by any means.
right.
And I remember my dad would on Sunday mornings give me $5 to ride to the Dunkin' Donuts that was about 1.5 miles from our house, which I would happily do. And I would go buy a dozen donuts, which were about $2.60, I think, with tax and everything. And then I could pocket the change. So I'd have 2.5 mile journey, balancing half of the journey, balancing a dozen donuts, and then ride back. And that just seems insane now. Like,
Yeah.
like if you went back to that neighborhood in particular and, tried to ride your bike 2.5 miles through, I mean, it would just be insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Jaret has a song called "Back in '83," and it's a lot of like his. It's kind of got a lot more references to like the bands that he
The
liked.
music,
at the time.
yeah.
But he's told a story recently, just like how listening to, we do an Eddie Rabbit song, and he always introduces that song with like he used to listen to that song while he was standing up between the seats while they were going down the road.
Oh, cool. Is it Driving My Life Away?
Yeah,
Is that
that's
the
it.
edit?
Yeah.
That's funny because I don't know what it is. It's that line that got me, that windshield wiper slapping to the tail. That's
Yeah.
such a great line.
Yep.
And I just sat down in my office one day and just started picking on that song. And I was like, man, this is cool. If I could remember the words, I'd do it.
I forgot that it was an Eddie Rabbit song until after we started learning it. I remembered the song. I just forgot who did it.
I couldn't pick Eddie Rabbit out of a lineup of 4 people. The only reason I know it's him on that song is because I recently was like looking at it.
Yeah. What's the "A Love a Rainy Night"? That's the other one that I recognize by him.
Oh yeah.
And I think I could recognize his face because I don't know who listened to him. Somebody must have listened to him a lot when I was a kid because I remember seeing records.
See, I bought a collection of records a while back that has a couple of Eddie Rabbit records in it, and I don't think either one of the ones I have has his face on it. I could be wrong, but yeah, I'm trying to think, but yeah, but good stuff.
We're talking a little bit about, kind of growing up and how the world has changed and life is different. I think your song, I really enjoyed this song. It's Superman Only Better. First of all, a great title. Second of all, great artwork by whoever did this if this is yours, congratulations. But whoever did this did a great job with this imagery. But
that was done by a girl named Julie Wojtovich who lives outside of Chicago. And man, I thought she knocked it out of the park. As a matter of fact, it's still the home screen on my phone, just because I really just like that image. It was, I told her what I wanted and she nailed it.
Yeah, but the song, like just the lyrics and everything, it really just, it's right. When you're a little kid, you feel like you could do anything, but then, as you get along in life, you realize you're not Superman, and like everything is kryptonite, not just kryptonite.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and the line about if you get hurt, you how's it go? That where you heal quickly. I can't remember
Yeah,
exactly.
if I got hurt, I'd quickly heal.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always joke about how the kids are made of rubber because
Yep.
they, running through the house, face plant practically. Back
That's
up.
exactly how I came to write that song. I was at some friend's house and their kid was running around the kitchen and just went forehead first into the kitchen island and it knocked her plumb out.
Oh,
And like a minute later, she was just up running around doing the same thing. I was like, man, that would put me out for days.
Oh yeah.
But,
God, I went for a run yesterday, and before I even got, and it's funny because going for a run is an old man thing to do. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but like, like a runner never stops running. Like you'll see, like you go to these. If you ever go to these like races, they call them races, but it's really just people there to say they finished. But I mean, it just just old people running, but I made it like a halfway around the block, and I stepped wrong, and I knew I was done for. And I kept going for another like 2.5 miles, and finally, I had to call my wife to come pick me up.
I've been there, man. I've been there.
I had a heel spur a while back that kept me off my feet for gosh, probably nearly 3 months. But that doesn't happen when you're a kid.
Yeah, I am actually a rare example of I used to run actually competitively, and I broke my leg so spectacularly about 12 years ago that I was running and I just hit some black ice, and it was in front of one of my restaurants, so I couldn't even sue anybody, and I
yourself.
Exactly. Since then, I've had spurts where I'll try to run. And matter of fact, I'm signed up for the Kerrville craft beer run in about 3 weeks. So I need to kind of get my poop in a group as far as that goes. But as far as doing it on any kind of steady basis, I just haven't been able to get back into it.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get started running until I was probably 30 something. I don't know, maybe 33, something like that.
Yeah.
But once I
what it does for your head is just impossible to beat. It's the coolest thing to me. There's no other feeling like it. You get this weird clarity, like problems you've had since you were 12 are just like, that was a solution all along. I should have just done that.
Song lyrics.
Yep, for sure.
Song lyrics. Although what I do when I'm running and something will come to me, I'll record it into my phone, but it's while I'm running. So when I listen back, it's a little bit hard to understand what the hell.
Like, what the hell was I? Yeah. I've substituted for hiking now, and I have a geriatric Great Dane, obviously, so he's better suited for hiking than running anyways. But I do those same voice recordings, but they come out a little bit clearer because I'm not entirely gasping for breath.
Yeah, right. Can we see your Great Dane?
Totally, yeah. He's actually right now, he's starting to drift off, and I can tell you that because his legs are twitching. Hey, boy.
What's
Potter.
His name?
Potter. Hey, buddy. Wake up and say hi to the nice people. He's pretty well passed out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a long day of laying on a different surface earlier.
Yeah, it's rough work.
Yeah.
Rough. Ha ha ha. Sorry.
So Aaron, are you kind of always like thinking about songs, writing songs, like working on new music, or do you kind of just wait till after, like when you're home for a little bit, if you have some off time, do you sit down and like assign a certain time to do that, or is it kind of constant?
It never happens at a convenient time, but I will. What happens is I'm just bumbling through life for a while, and I'm throwing notes into my iPhone notes app. Just a little sentence I thought of. If I can, here's one that includes a shopping list. You can see shampoo and body wash, and then there are several little song lyrics, and then a venue or a podcast that you just told me about before this. So there are 300 or 400 such notes in my in my apps, and when I like really get like, sometimes one of those thoughts will stick with me, and then I'll get this. I've never said this out loud to anybody before because it's kind of gross sounding, but my brain gets pregnant with all these like ideas. Like I carry this idea to term, and now it's time to, it can no longer stay in there. And like I say, that never happens at a convenient time, but it'll get to the point where this thing has to come out. And that's why I just always have a guitar with me. I always have some way to write. I always have a laptop or something, and it's just kind of how it happens. The more I'm doing, the more it's happening. If I'm sitting around with lots of time on my hands, stuff never comes to me.
That
sounds about right.
That's how it happened to you.
Yep.
Oh.
Nice.
Sorry. Now we're getting into the jokes, and it's going to get good from here.
That's all right.
So your most recent album again is Breaking Ground. That came out in 2020, late 2022. When do you have thoughts in mind when the next thing's going to come out, or?
Already working on it, brother. I've got I always say I've got all the songs written, but what always happens is my favorite song is written while I'm recording, when it's almost too late to be included on the record.
Mm-hmm.
So I look forward to that happening. But I've got the musicians lined up, and the plan for this one is going to be all acoustic instruments, no steel, no electric guitar, just double bass, dobro. The guy from Wilder Blue has agreed to play dobro on the record. Some mandolin, some fiddle, some banjo, and
you've got a lot of that on previous recordings.
I do, and then so this last record, Breaking Ground, it was the first record that I didn't record and produce myself. I went to a producer because I needed something that sounded like it belonged on the radio, and he did a great job with that.
Yeah.
But my personal preference is to have a little more bare of a sound. Like if I had to pick an artist whose sound I dug the most, it's Lyle Lovett,
Yeah.
I like that when something comes in for a solo or what, you can just hear every bit of every instrument, because there's not 30 tracks, there's 9.
Right.
I look at it, it's another weird analogy, but I look at it like soup. If you get like a broccoli cheese soup, all you can see is little bits of green poking out the top because it's such a thick soup. But if it's a thinner soup, you can see like the sides of the vegetables. I look at that just like, I know this is bonkers. It doesn't make sense.
It makes sense to me.
But I just want to thin the soup a touch for this next record.
Yeah. Yeah, I can appreciate that. And I tend to go that direction with the songs that I like too. Although, I mean, I'm very much a lyrics person too. So like my daughter's been playing some songs for me recently by some newer like pop bands. And I'm like, this is a really great song. And I wouldn't normally listen to that kind of stuff, but it's just like randomly she'll pick one and I'll think this is awesome. There's this group called, I don't know if it's even a group. It's an artist named Cave Town. And the song is called Lemon Boy. You should check it out. It's very interesting.
It doesn't, you're not selling it to me super hard, but that makes me want to check it out all the more.
It's about they have a friend, and he's very citrusy.
Okay.
Very, very, very sour, and all of their other friends are too savory, and it's just like, I don't know.
Okay.
It's a very,
I like it.
The dynamics of the song are really interesting because it will go from like very soft, kind of very mellow sounding, and then it'll ramp up to like electric guitars and like going into like a punk type of sound or something, and it's just
nice.
Check it out and text me and tell me if you like it.
I absolutely will now.
I want to find out because I haven't talked to anybody else about this song since my daughter introduced it to me like 2 days ago. So,
right on. I'll check it out.
Oh, before we wrap it up, I wanted to mention earlier because you were talking about your voice, and so this has nothing to do with Cave Town or Lemon Boy, but
sorry to the Cave
Yeah.
Town or Lemon Boy
Sorry about
fans
that.
out there. Yeah,
and there's a
I'm
lot of
actually
them.
gonna-
Believe me, there's a lot of them. I think I looked them up, and they've got like 1.4 million followers or something. So
That's always the way.
yeah, but no, I was gonna say I hear similarities to your voice, and also in the storytelling capacity, the ability to tell a story with BJ Barham of American Aquarium.
Oh, right on. That makes me very happy.
Yeah,
Um,
he tells a hell of a story.
Yeah.
And I think your voice is pretty similar to his. I think.
I really appreciate that. It's weird for me to think about my voice like like it still sounds weird to me when I hear it in recordings. It doesn't sound it doesn't sound comforting to me. It doesn't sound but the one thing I can say is it does sound like me. It sounds honest and
Yeah.
like, I don't hear my recent recordings and go, that's not how I talk, or that's not how I,
Yeah.
now I pass all my lyrics through the filter of, is that something I would actually say,
Yeah.
and the way I sing it, I guess I just know my lane. Like I'm not reaching for notes that are just,
Mm-hmm.
barely attainable.
Yeah. I was working on a song recently, and I kept going back and forth with the guy that was mixing it. It's like I'm hearing too much compression or too much something, and he's like, "I've basically taken all that off. I think what you're hearing is your voice." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I don't like that part."
Right. Yeah, man. That's a hard thing to get used to, and it's an even harder thing. Like the one thing that was so great about this last album is I just went in and I played guitar and I sang and I went away. And
Yeah.
and when you hear it, they've already scraped out all the bad stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
and then you get to hear it and you're like, oh, okay, I'm actually not bad at this. But
Yeah.
if I went back and just listened to the raw audio on something I recorded at home, it would be much different.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So are you going to go back to doing it yourself, like, or are you going to still use somebody to do it, even though you're kind of pulling back and stripping down the sound a bit?
My plan is to record all the parts at my studio and then send it off to be mixed to somebody I trust.
Yep.
And I haven't decided who that somebody I trust is going to be yet.
Yeah.
I guess my first move ought to be to figure out who mixes Lyle's albums and see if they're available.
Yeah. That
And
would
I've had real good luck just reaching out to people just out of the blue and going, hey, dude. And this worked really well during COVID because nobody was on the road. Just like, hey, I really like your stuff. Do you do session stuff? And 90% of the time, like, yeah, I got a studio in my house. Give me $150. I'll send you 3 fiddle tracks.
Yeah.
And I've had really good luck doing that. So, hell, I'm going to reach out to him.
It seems like everybody's doing some kind of hybrid version of that. Some of it in the studio, maybe, but a lot of it just people. Because like you said, like everybody's got access to a microphone and a interface. So
don't get me wrong. The very moment I can go to a really nice studio and record all at once with the band, that's
Sure.
what I'll do. But who's got the however many billions of dollars that costs?
Yep.
And then, found out on this last record, I wanted a record that sounded like it belonged on the radio so badly. You get it done, you pay for it, you record it, and then you go, oh crap, now I got to pay a publicist, I got to pay for radio release, I got to pay for XX and X. The recording was nothing.
Yeah. We haven't even talked about that. I usually ask that question of my guests if they've done any of the radio promotion, because that was one of the things that I only learned about, in the last since I really started doing this again seriously. But it's been about 8 years or so.
I did pay for a couple of singles through distribution through CDX, and then I have a publicist named Barry Rogers who is really good at his job. Not only that, but this is a bit like believing that the stripper actually likes you. But I think I think he really believes in me and believes in my music. And so he and I just started calling radio stations and sending letters and stuff. And it worked very well in some markets and not so well in others. But I did have a song on the charts, on the Texas charts for a while, Dream Along With Me. And, that was a cool little mile marker for me.
Has anybody else ever put out one of your songs?
No, not in like a professional way. I have had people. I had a guy record a video of him doing Allsup's Burrito and send it to me a couple months ago. But yeah, just kind of like fan homages. If Ray Wiley Hubbard wants to do the Laundry song, I'd be really thrilled about that. But hadn't happened yet.
Well, it might. You never know. Gotta keep taking swings at it. But hey, Aaron, where can people see you coming soon?
That's an excellent question. I'm gonna consult my calendar here for just a moment.
Actually,
I have.
Go to the screen.
There we go.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. So that Gringo's Ice House in Fentress, actually on October 21, that's a full band gig. I haven't played a full band gig in forever, and I have a special guest fiddle player on that show. That's going to be a real treat to watch. I hope. I've never played with him before, but I'm sure he's fantastic.
He's probably terrible.
I'll keep my expectations low. But so I'm doing an acoustic show at that place first, and then the show in Kerrville at Pint and Plow is going to be really cool. I'm playing with Ollie Steck, who is Bob Schneider's accordion and keys and trumpet player. But he and I have been doing a thing for a while. That thing in Waring, Texas is at a church that's been converted into like a house concert venue, and I'm doing that with Don Rollins, who wrote It's 5 O'Clock Somewhere. And they've got a couple shows opening for the Wilder Blue coming up. One's in Roswell at this place called the Liberty. So I'm kind of all over.
Very cool. And do I know the fiddle player for the September 7th show?
He's right there, Mr. Jason Harrell. And he's
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
Me too.
I mean, I've already been listening to the songs a lot, so.
That's cool. I did a little dive on your fiddle playing, just to check you out. And I was really impressed. Yeah, I was very impressed.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
We're working on more stuff actually, so we'll see.
Well, that's cool.
I don't know when it'll come out, but.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I think that's going to be a hoot. And have you been to that venue?
No.
It's freaking gorgeous. It's brand new. It's got the stage is great. Sound is state of the art. It's sort of indoor outdoor. Like there's some garage door open, but somehow it's air conditioned. Mm-hmm. And there's a really nice, like you pull up in the back. I plug my van into the tour bus connection, walk into the green room. It's a beautiful place.
Nice. Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Well, Aaron, it's been great having you on the show. And before we get out of here, I just want to give you a chance to plug away. Let us know, where can people find you on social media? You've obviously got a website. I've got streaming below, but for the people listening, let people know where they can find you. Yeah,
for sure. So AaronLaCombe.com, which I see you have scrolling up there, branches out to all those things. But I will tell you what I need right now. Okay. I need Instagram followers and Spotify followers because my Facebook is blowing up because old people love me and they're on Facebook. And Italians too, apparently. But all this stuff matters. I hate that we have to play these games, but Spotify and Instagram are the big thing right now that I'm trying to work on. Some people complain about streaming. I love it. I watch it every day. I can tell you how many people listened to what songs 2 days ago. And it's just such an honor for me when people choose to listen to my stuff any way they choose to do it. Very cool. Yeah. If you're listening or watching, please do follow Aaron on Instagram and check his music out on Spotify. Yeah, man. That would help. And also, if you're watching this now or later on YouTube, do us a favor. Give us a like. Subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out. We really appreciate it. And if video isn't your thing, that's okay because we got you covered because we have our podcast also on audio platforms like Spotify and Pocket Casts. So check us out there and, rate and review. That stuff all really, really helps us out.
And much like Aaron, we're also on social media, as you probably could guess. We're on Instagram and Twitter. And I mean, I guess it's called X, but you still have to go to twitter.com to log in. So I'm still calling it Twitter. But anyway, we're at LFDT Pod. That's LFDT Pod, which is LFDT stands for Let's Freaking Do This. So give us a follow there. We're also on Facebook, right, Jason?
Yeah, that's the rumor. I was actually going to say we're really not that active on any of these social media platforms.
No.
I try to post. I try to post when we're having shows as well, and I've been posting a lot lately about Aaron. So you could follow me on Twitter. That's the most active place that I am. Jason Harrell TX.
And you play with a pretty prominent person that we're all fans of. So.
Me and you are for sure.
Yeah, for sure we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't you plug that too while we're here?
Yeah, play with Jaret Ray Reddick, also known as Jaret Reddick of Bowling for Soup, and his little country band. We've been having a blast doing that stuff. We're actually going to be off. We don't really have another show until the end of September. I think October is pretty sparse because they're doing a bunch of Bowling for Soup stuff. November is going to be busy as hell, and then I don't know what's going on in December, but spring will be busy as well. So I don't know.
I know you're playing in Kerrville in March.
Oh, do you know that? Because I didn't even know that yet.
Yep, you are.
Okay, cool.
I think it's on or about the 13th or something, but yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I know that's about the time he's looking to book like jam-packed, get everything in there, because next year's Bowling for Soup's 30th anniversary as a band, and so they're trying to do their summer's going to be crazy. There's going to be a lot of Bowling for Soup stuff, so I'll have a lot of openings for fiddle gigs.
Excellent.
Next year, so
that's great.
We'll see how this one goes first, and then
yeah, for sure.
I think Aaron LaCombe and Jaret Ray Reddick would be a pretty good show.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that'd be a pretty good bill to go check out somewhere.
Pass it on that I am perfectly willing to open up for him, and it'll benefit him greatly because I will depress everybody there, and it'll just lower. And when he comes out, man, they'll just be like, "Wow, this is awesome."
You know what's funny? So he and I have been writing songs through text lately, and I know we're trying to wrap this up, but he and I have been writing songs through text lately, and so I wrote like this first verse. It was based off of a concept that he had, and I wrote it, and it's all like finger picking and sad and everything, and so he sends it back, and it's like, so I made it a little less sad.
Nice.
It's like, well, there's no way you're going to get put on that sad girl country songs playlist if you don't have sad songs.
The only person I've ever opened for that my superpower didn't work to boost them was James McMurtry. He just outstatted me.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I just got totally beaten at my own game.
Yeah. You're not sad enough.
Yep.
Well, but you are very talented, and Aaron, it was an actual pleasure to have you on the show. We really enjoyed it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much, man. This has been great. It's been like talking to two buddies.
Very cool. Jason, any final words before we get out of here?
Nope, that's it. Thanks for being on, Aaron. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I'll probably be annoying you about more questions about your songs because I have your phone number, so I'll just text you.
I look forward to it.
So for Aaron, for Jason, I'm Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.